Okay, so welcome everybody and thank you for joining From Stuck to Unstoppable, Handling Obstacles Like a Pro. I'm Caro Melnick, an NLP practitioner and transformation coach, and I'm really excited about tonight's webinar. What we're going to do is I'm going to help you to identify, confront, and overcome the challenges that may be holding you back. Whether it's in your personal life, your professional pursuits, it doesn't matter. We are facing obstacles almost every single day of our lives. But with the right mindset and tools, we can turn these roadblocks into stepping stones. So let's get cracking. The first thing I want to do is I want to ask you a question, and you can think about it. And if you'd like to share with us, please pop it into the chat box. And then right at the end, when we do the question and answers, we'll have a look at the questions and we'll see whether the content that you've learned this evening is going to help you to face that obstacle. So what is one obstacle you're currently facing that feels particularly challenging? There must be that one that's really standing out. So in the agenda in this webinar, what we're going to have a look at is firstly, we're going to see how can we spot what's holding us back. Secondly, facing the challenges head on. It's the only way to do it. What are some ways that we can do that? Breaking free from feeling stuck, staying strong when life throws you curveballs, and then proven tools to help you overcome adversity. So first up, how to spot what's holding you back. And I always start the webinar with a quote, and I love this one here. Life is not about waiting for the storms to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. Isn't that such an amazing quote about challenges and obstacles? And that's by Vivian Green. So keep that in mind. So the first thing is, you can't fix something that you're not aware of. And that's why it's so important to spot what's holding you back. And how do you do that? So I've got a workbook that I'm going to share with you at the end of this webinar. I'm going to also email it to you. And it's got a little exercise where you start brainstorming about your obstacles, because often you think a certain thing is holding you back, but you're not sure what the real obstacle is. But the first step to actually doing anything about it is actually identifying your obstacles. And these can be divided into internal obstacles and external obstacles. So what is the difference between the two? An internal obstacle is something like, and it's intangible, it will be something like self-doubt. It comes from within. That mind talk that you have, your self-doubt, your fears of failure, perfectionism, actions that you're doing to physically hold yourself back. Sometimes these internal barriers are the absolute hardest to overcome because they're deeply rooted in our mindset and our belief system and our value system. So what I like to do is I like to identify the internal obstacles completely separately to the external obstacle. Now, an external obstacle is something that's out of your control. It's not from within yourself. So it's things like your environment, your money, your resources that you might have, financial limitations, responsibilities. Maybe you need someone who's an expert in some area to help you, and you can't find the right person. Those are externals. Resources that you need is not only time and energy, but it's also, practical tools that you will need to purchase with funds, etc. So there's clearly defined between the internal and the external obstacles. So take a moment about that obstacle and think about that obstacle that you've just mentioned. and consider both the internal and external factors, because maybe that obstacle, that one challenge that is so huge for you, has a combination of internal, smaller obstacles that once you build them all together, they make something that looks like really bad. So internal and external. And I like to take a piece of paper and write down, and I've created a worksheet in the workbook that I'm going to be sending to you, which has a list where a little table where you can actually just start brainstorming and saying, I'm trying to start my own business and I just can't get started, even though I've got this amazing plan put together. I don't know what's holding me back. Let me just give it some thought. So you can use the worksheet to start brainstorming and thinking, well, you know what? I've got fear of failing. I'm scared to leave my 9-to-5 job. And if I try to start my business while I'm still working, maybe I don't have enough time and my energy is going to be depleted, and then my health is going to be at risk. And then you start, once you start giving it some thought and start writing it down, it actually becomes a lot clearer, and you'll be able to be equipped to do something about it. So, yeah. Take that obstacle, the biggest obstacle that we were thinking about, and write down one internal factor about it that's holding you back and one external factor. So now I'd like to tell you a story about Tracy. So Tracy was a lady who dreamed of starting her own graphic design business. And for years and years, she's been working as a designer at a marketing agency, and she absolutely loved her work, but she felt unfulfilled. She knew that she had the skills and creativity to make it on her own, but something kept holding her back. And every time she thought about leaving her job and starting her own business, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. So one day Tracy decided, well, she's had enough of this now because she's been sitting on the fence for so long. And she decided to have a closer look at what's stopping her. And she sat down with a notebook and asked herself 2 questions. The first is, what are the internal obstacles that are holding me back? Things within myself that I'm creating or believing. And what are the external obstacles in my way? So she took that and made a list of all those obstacles. She looked inward and recognized a few internal obstacles. And the one big one was self-doubt, deep down. So even though she knew and she could see in her everyday work that she was an excellent graphic designer, her clients loved her, she had excellent results, she still had self-doubt that she wouldn't be good enough to make it on her own. She also realized that she had a fear of failure. So what if she tried and it didn't work out? The idea of failing and having to return to her traditional job felt absolutely crushing. So does that mean it's easier just to stay where she is and not even give it a bash? She wrote all of these internal obstacles down, finally acknowledging the fears and insecurities that she'd been carrying around. Next, she said, okay, let's look at the external things. What's holding me back there? And she realized that money was a huge concern. Starting your own business means that she would have to give up that steady paycheck that's coming in every month, which was especially scary because she had debt and she had bills to pay every month. She also didn't have much support from her network for advice or for encouragement. And although she had friends and family who were, they were supportive, but they all worked 9-to-5 jobs. No one was an entrepreneur, so they couldn't really understand and relate to her entrepreneurial dreams. So once she had everything written down, she felt a lot lighter because for the first time, she had a really, really clear picture of the roadblocks that were standing in her way. And this was a very powerful moment. She realized that simply identifying her obstacles was already half the battle won, because now she could actually start thinking about solutions. For internal obstacles like the self-doubt and the fear of failure, Tracy decided to start working on her mindset, and she began using positive affirmations and visualizing her future for success. She reminded herself of all of her accomplishments to date, and that she was already an accomplished and successful graphic designer. And what she did was she started building a habit of celebrating small wins to boost her confidence every day. Actually looking for the positive things every day that she'd accomplished. Then for her external obstacles, she put together a simple financial plan so that she could start saving up for a cushion of money and comfortably take the leap when she was ready. So she worked it out, what she was able to put aside every month, how long it would take her to create that cushion. And she had a workable plan. And for the support side, she actually joined some online groups for entrepreneurs, and she started attending some business networking events to connect with people who understood her journey. Gradually, she realized that the mountain she'd been facing wasn't as overwhelming as it seemed, and by spotting her obstacles and breaking them down, she took the first step towards her dream and gave herself a roadmap to move forward. So Tracy's story is a reminder that identifying your obstacles is a crucial, crucial first step. And once we see what's truly holding us back, internally and externally, we can then make a plan to overcome it. So take time to consider your obstacles that that one big one that you identified earlier, and you can use the same process for all the smaller obstacles that come across your path every single day. How does knowing what these obstacles are make you feel about your path moving forward? Okay, now we're going to talk about facing your challenges head on. So now that you know what they are, you can actually do something about it. Here are 3 very useful tools that I use to face challenges head on. And you can use this to approach all of your obstacles with confidence in your day-to-day life. The first way is to reframe the challenge. Now, I've talked about reframing in almost every single webinar. And what reframing is that you look at something and then you reframe it into a positive, encouraging phrase or saying. So, for instance, if you say, I'm not qualified enough to do this job, that's your limiting belief. It's possibly your obstacle that's holding you back from applying for that new position, right? Say to yourself, I am capable of learning the skills that's needed to do this job. So you've reframed it into an encouraging, supportive statement. And then you can use that as an affirmation to remind yourself every single day that although you might not have all the skills you require right now, you are capable of learning them so that you are able to step into that job that you're dreaming of one day. So that's what reframing is. The second is to break it down. So, you look at a mountain, it looks almost unbearable, or I've spoken before about that ladder that goes all the way up. And I don't know if you've seen the picture of there's two ladders side by side. And the one guy is on this ladder that's got all these tiny little rungs all very close together, and he's almost all at the top of the ladder. And then the second ladder right next to it has these rungs that are very far apart, and this guy is standing on the ground and he's reaching up and he can't reach that first rung. So the moral of the story is that the guy on the left with the ladder with the tiny little rungs that are so close together had created a plan with small actionable steps. And as he went up one rung, he just focused on the next actionable, tiny, tiny step that seemed almost insignificant, but it started moving him forward. And as a result, he got up to the top of the ladder while the guy with the big milestones was still trying to figure out how to get to the first rung of the ladder. Moral of the story is, take it. If it seems overwhelming, break it down into smaller, manageable steps. And one small step can make a big difference. What you need is you just need to start going, and then it gets easier and easier. The third thing that really, really helps with facing challenges heads on is to seek support. And this I value more than anything. It's so important to surround yourself with supportive friends, families, mentors, even colleagues at work. If you don't know how to do something and it seems overwhelming, have somebody that you can maybe chat to about it, because they see it from a different perspective. And they can say, hey, have you thought about it from this side? Or, maybe you should take a step back because you're too close to the project and look at it from, as if you're a little eagle flying above your situation, and then you can see it nicely and clearly, and then break it down into smaller steps. So having a sounding board, somebody to talk to, even if they don't know how to figure it out, sometimes all it needs is that they need to trigger something that helps you to see it in a different light. Now, breaking free from the feeling of being stuck. There's nothing worse than feeling frustrated and being stuck. And this is what works. Firstly, if you follow the first two steps that we've just talked about, i.e. making a list of all your obstacles, identifying them so that you're aware of what they are, and then looking at them, reframing limiting beliefs and fears, and breaking them down into small actionable steps. Once you've started doing that, you're already going to start feeling a lot lighter and unstuck. But the one thing that actually really, really makes a difference is action. So action beats analysis, and overthinking is analysis. Unfortunately, you get people who like to overthink problems. Sometimes you just need to start, even if it's not exactly the 100% right thing to do. Just start. Make a step in the right direction. So taking small, consistent steps will get you there eventually. And the second thing is embrace imperfection. Who knows the overthinker? I'm sure all of you know the overthinker. And the other one that you know very well is the perfectionist. So a perfectionist's biggest enemy is themselves, because they're always trying to get everything absolutely perfect, but there is no such thing. So if you embrace imperfection, focus on progress rather than perfection, because you know what? In life, most of the time, if you start something and it's not 100% perfect and it doesn't quite work out, you have figured out a better way or a way not to do it. And then you just try again and try again. Everybody who has done something great and invented something great has failed more times than we could ever imagine. And what has made the difference is that they just carried on and try it again and try it again and try it again. But they didn't do the same thing this next time. So if you embrace imperfection, you will get there. Because part of that is actually accepting that if it doesn't work out, once you give it a try, it doesn't mean you failed. All it means is that you've got more information to work with to do a better job the next time you try. So taking imperfect action is better than no action at all. So activity, what I'd like you to do is look at your obstacle that you've identified. You've looked at an internal and an external factor of it. You will reframe it and work on creating actionable steps. But I want you to think of 3 small steps that you can take within the next week that will get you closer towards one of your goals. And if you do that, it's manageable. So learning to prioritize, identify just one that you want to tackle and put 3 small actionable steps that will move you closer towards that goal and figure out your way around or over or through the obstacle. So how do you stay strong when life throws you curveballs? Firstly, I like to practice daily affirmations. And by affirmations, I don't mean woo-woo, pie in the sky, big imagination things. What I mean is remind yourself of your strengths and what you have already accomplished. So those are 2 things. Number 1 is you already have strengths and a skill set. Keep reminding yourself that you are capable of those things and that you have those strengths. So that if life does throw you a curveball or you hit an obstacle, you're still confident in your ability to get the job done. And the second is constantly reminding yourself of what you've already accomplished. And this is one of the big reasons why I really believe in keeping a journal, because you can go and if you start writing in your journal and you go and look back at where you were 6 months ago, you'll see, oh my word, I have accomplished so much already. And you'll be amazed. Always remind yourself of what you have already accomplished, because if you look at how you've managed challenges in the past, how you've survived, how you thought you faced this challenge and you thought, oh my word, I'm never going to get through it. Has there been a day that you've woken up and you've got like hectic meetings and deadlines and things and you say, oh my goodness me, I don't know how I'm going to get through today. But then when you come home and you climb into bed that night, everything was done. And it was like, wow, I actually got through that. You tend to forget, right? Remind yourself of those accomplishments because you are more capable than what you give yourself credit for often. The second thing is visualization. So where the daily affirmations is working with existing strengths and accomplishments, your visualization is using your imagination to prepare yourself mentally to face the challenge or overcome the obstacle. So it's like a mental rehearsal. You think about the challenge or the obstacle. For instance, you're going into a meeting where you have to have a very, very confrontational discussion with your team members. And you have to do this. You've got no choice about it. So it's like an obstacle. You can't actually progress forward without doing this. But it's not nice. It's not a great thing to do. How do you prepare yourself for it? Close your eyes and you visualize. You actually mentally rehearse that you are prepared for that meeting. For what are you going to say? You also visualize potentially the reactions of the people in that meeting. And then it will give you confidence and it will give your mind a clear idea on how to roll the meeting out or run the meeting in a successful manner. So that's visualization. Then the third thing is to adopt a growth mindset. And this is to embrace the idea that challenges and setbacks are part of a journey. They are there. You know, it's not like it's a disaster. You'll find some people will think, oh, it's such a disaster if I get, you know, a challenge or an obstacle in my way. Everything's got to be plain sailing. It never will be. When you're growing and when you're changing, there is going to be an obstacle. I saw somewhere, I've been doing some research on obstacles and that, and I wish I'd made a note of it, but I saw somewhere a saying where they said, stop viewing an obstacle like a big brick wall that's in front of you, and rather view it like a door that's opening new opportunities and growth for you. Because often an obstacle is just something that's unexpected, you know, that you couldn't foresee and that you just need to figure out how to get past. It's part of your growth journey. So if you move from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset, where you actually embrace the idea that this is part of your journey and that you do have what it takes to figure out how to get through this, it's going to be a game changer. So how do you stay motivated when you face a setback? This is a question for the chat box. Take small steps every day. I like that one. Right, so here are some tools, proven tools to overcome adversity. The first is, and make this a daily habit, spend a few minutes every day visualizing yourself overcoming your obstacle or challenge. Even if you wake up in the morning and you visualize, you know, if you've got that hectic day ahead of you and you sit and you take a few moments just to talk yourself through the day. It's like a mental rehearsal. Reinforce what your priorities are, who you need to speak to. Mentally prepare yourself so that you don't have to, you know, overthink it once you start. You know, you've got an action plan. You know, you've thought about almost every possibility that could come your way. You're mentally prepared for it and for the obstacles. Mentally rehearse the situation to prepare yourself for the real thing. So that's pretty much the same thing. And then play out the different possibilities in your head. So I know that it's not possible to always predict how things will respond. But if you have figured out 3 of the 5 ways that someone or things may turn out, it's going to help you, because your chances of it being one of those 3 things is, you know, fairly high. So visualizing, seeing yourself, talking you through, mentally rehearsing how you're going to overcome that obstacle, mentally rehearsing the situation to prepare yourself for the actual real thing, and then playing out the different possibilities and reactions of people. If you've got to, you know, interact and involve other people, it's going to help you prepare a lot. The next thing is affirmations. Replace negative thoughts with empowering thoughts. So in the beginning, you identified your obstacles, and some of them were internal obstacles and some of them were external. And of the internal obstacles, a lot of them were limiting beliefs or fears. Replace them with empowering thoughts and write them down to remind yourself of them every single day. Then write down your strengths and your resources that you already have at your disposal to tackle the challenge. And what this does is it reinforces the fact that you actually are capable of facing this obstacle. Remind yourself of these every day. Review the reframed limiting beliefs regularly so that it becomes part of you to start, instead of thinking the negative side, you start thinking the positive, empowering way about that particular belief. Challenge your limiting beliefs so that they lose their power. And by challenging, what I mean is you take a limiting belief, and let me just find my note here so that I can get the correct wording. And you ask, is this actually true? If you call yourself on it, like you've got this guy in your head that's living in your head that's telling you, oh, I'm not good enough. Is it actually true? Challenge it. And the minute you ask that question, it starts losing its power, because then it makes you doubt your own freaking limiting belief. And then create powerful I am statements that are authentic and true to your current situation. So I am capable. I am good enough. I am experienced. Journaling. Take time to reflect on your challenges and write them down. Writing them down can help you find ways to conquer them. Writing is so therapeutic. I like to use a hardcover book journal and write with a pen. Other people like typing. Do whatever works for you. But what it's like is like taking all this activity that's, going around in your mind, and you're putting it down on a piece of paper or onto your computer. And it helps to just clarify it. Sometimes you can just solve your problems just by starting to write down and then thinking, what is this all about? What are you carrying on about? It's really not so difficult. This is what it could be. It just helps you find clarity. And then the other nice thing about journaling is that you can reflect on your achievements. So remind yourself how far you've come. And this will be a motivation to keep yourself going. Journaling is a powerful tool to gain clarity and for self-discovery and for growth. So we're now at the end of the session, and I'd like you to share one key takeaway from today's session in the chat box. I see we have got some chats. And then I'm going to quickly run through a take-home activity that I'm giving you. It's a workbook. It's called Understanding Obstacles and Their Root Causes. And what this does is it walks you through the process of identifying your obstacles, your internal and external obstacles. And then it's got a root cause analysis, which is very, very useful, because sometimes what you view as an obstacle isn't the real obstacle. For instance, an example would be, an obstacle is I keep procrastinating. And you ask yourself, why is this a problem? Well, I keep procrastinating because then I'm not even getting started on what I need to do. So, I'm going to miss my deadlines, blah, 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 blah. And if you keep unpacking it, what comes out at the end is that your procrastination is actually as a result of your fear of the unknown. Because making this change and actually approaching it is going into a place that you don't know, and that's out of your comfort zone, and that is scary. So your real obstacle is not the procrastination. Your real obstacle is actually the fear of the unknown. And once you know what that root cause is, you can actually do something about it. So that's a lovely exercise to try and uncover those root deep-seated causes of your that's holding you back. Then you look at your limiting beliefs about the actual obstacle that you're facing, and you can then reframe the limiting beliefs. So you might have 10 limiting beliefs about it. You might only have 2. It doesn't matter. You can use this worksheet for any obstacle that you're facing in life, just take a few minutes and quickly fill it out. And it's really going to help you to see things from a different perspective. What you're going to do is you're going to reframe that limiting belief into an empowering statement. So instead of saying, I don't have what it takes to start my own business, you say, I am willing and capable of learning what I need to start my own business. Okay. And then it contains some journal prompts to give you some, something to think about when facing challenges in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to email that book to you. I can pop it here onto the chat as soon as I stop sharing my screen. So wrap up and any questions. Let's have a look at what's in the chat. Okay, so Hester, thank you. Key takeaway, is it really true? You are calling yourself out there, hey? Analyzing those negative thoughts about yourself. It is a nice one. Reminding myself of previous successes and small steps to see it as a challenge. It's lovely. Thank you for sharing. Do you want to say something about that?
Well, that sort of really struck home,
Yeah.
asking myself, is it really true?
Yeah.
What makes you say that? You're just saying it. Why are you saying it? So yes, that's quite valuable, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That also stood out for me because it's like we call it a pattern interrupter, because the negative beliefs and doubts and things like that they're part of your programming. So you do them, they're there without you even thinking about it. So you don't,
Yes.
actually actively believe those things, or they're just there. Suddenly something happens, like an opportunity comes across your path, and this limiting belief will jump up and say, hey, you're not good enough for that. And you will just sit, because that's how you've lived and it's part of your programming. You will just go with that. But if you want to stop that, if you want to break the pattern, you say, hey, is that actually true? And what it does is it makes you do an about turn and say, whoa, let's just break this down a little bit. Let's give it some thought. So it is a very, very, very powerful statement. And thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so I don't see any more comments on the chat box for now, but what I'd like to do is just quickly remind you of what's coming up. Oh, there we go. So first thing is, if you haven't got my book yet, Reignite Your Life, Finding Purpose After 50. It really is an amazing book. I put it together because of my personal journey over the last few years, where my children left. I left my 9 to 5 and started my own business. And yes, the rug got pulled out underneath my feet. And suddenly I had to relook at who I was and my identity as a person and my purpose. And I went from a conference and events organizer, which was my professional identity, to a life coach who had to figure out, where's my niche, what do I want to work with, etc. And I also went from a mom of 4 boys, that was my whole identity for like 25 years. And now suddenly all my kids had left home, and it was like, who's Caro? Who's Caro without my kids? And that is why I put this book together, because it's a hard process to go through. And it doesn't matter if you're not 50. It doesn't matter if you don't have any kids. Everybody goes through major change in their lives at some point. And if you face change, it could be divorce. It could be that someone very close to you has passed away and they're no longer in your life. Finding purpose and finding yourself creating a new identity or feeling comfortable with who you are in these new circumstances is a journey, and it's not easy. So I put this book together to help people to navigate those kinds of situations in their lives. And if you'd like a copy, that QR code, you can scan it and download it. Or just pop me an email or WhatsApp if you've got my number, and I will gladly send you the book. So what it's got included is why purpose matters, some actionable steps that you can take to find your purpose, and also a little passion project of mine that life after 50 can actually be your best life, because a lot of people think that once you hit the big 50, that's it. But you know what? Your life could actually just be beginning. It's a time to explore things that you've always wanted to, that you've put on the back burner because you've been so busy doing everything else, being that mom, being that career person, being that wife, husband, father. And now you can start looking at who you are and enjoy the rest of your life. So that's my book. The second thing that I've got, which is launching this weekend, is I've put together a journaling template because I absolutely love journaling, and I think it's one of the most amazing things on this planet to help you with your mental health, your just keep things organized. So this is a group of templates. There's 15 useful journal and planning templates that I've put in here. And what I've done is I've included a detailed info on how to use the templates and why, what the benefits are. So besides having like a gratitude journal and things like that, I've got a habit tracker. Like if you're trying to start a new habit, there's a habit tracker in there. I've just recently been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I've had to change my whole lifestyle. And so what I included in there was like a food diary, because I had to figure out what's causing inflammation in my body. And so you can keep track of what you've been eating and how you're responding, every single day, so that you can see if there's a pattern to pick up if you've got an allergy or you respond to things badly. So I put that in there. There's a budget planner, etc., etc. So it's a whole group of useful journal and planning templates. If you'd like a copy, just let me know, but I will be posting the links and everything as soon as it's up and ready for download. The next webinar is going to be in a workshop format, and it's also free, and it's going to be on the 5th of December. So that's 3 weeks from now. It's going to be Design Your Dream 2025, and that's creating a vision board. So last webinar we talked about visualization, and then in the vision board workshop, we're actually going to look at how to make a vision board and how to make it work for you. So there won't be enough time for you to create your whole vision board, but it is a very powerful tool, and now's the time that you should be planning for 2025. So if you'd like to join, you can scan the QR code to register, but I will also be advertising it. We've still got places on our retreat, which is taking place from the 29th of November at Citrusdal at Waterfall Farm. It's all about breathing. Picture yourself getting away from all the distractions and the digital noise and the to-do lists and just picture yourself getting away and just being able to breathe and to enjoy nature. Doesn't that waterfall look beautiful? That is on the farm that we've booked. And we're going to learn about breath work, rediscovering simple joys of being fully present and alive. Breath work really, really does work. So if you're keen, or if you know anybody who's around the Western Cape at the time and would love to join, we have some payment plans available. So really, it's going to be a very, very special experience. And then the last thing is, I've got a 5-day challenge coming up from the 9th to the 13th of December. It's a beat the end of year burnout self-care challenge. And every day there'll be something small that you can do to take care of yourself and to beat the burnout of the year end. I find that this time of year, everybody is just so crazy busy, especially here in South Africa, where South Africa literally shuts down in December. From about the 15th of December until about the 10th of January, South Africa's in silly mode. It's just about holidays. Nobody makes decisions, but everybody expects everything to be done. Everything must be done before you go on leave. Absolutely everything. Nothing must be outstanding. And it just creates such a generator of stress and actually burnouts that by the time you get on holiday, it takes you like a week or 2 weeks to actually recover before you can start enjoying your holiday. And then by the time you get to that point, you've got to go back to work again. So this is designed specifically to help you to work through that burnout, to look after yourself just a little bit, give yourself that love that you need and that self-care, so that by the time you do go on holiday, by the 20th of December, 15th, 20th of December, you're actually in a lot better space than, you're not as frazzled. Yeah, so if you'd like to join the challenge, you can scan that QR code and register for it. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining. Has anybody got any questions? No?
No, not now. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a very valuable session.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you, Mickey, Christine, Kevin, Hester. Thank you, all of you, for joining live here. It's been great having you here. And what I am doing is, if you've got any friends that you feel will benefit from joining my webinars in the future, please share the information. It doesn't matter if they can't attend live, because I do record all of the webinars, and I put the videos onto YouTube, and then I share the replays with people who have registered. Every single time I try to have something that's valuable that you can take away and learn from it. And the content and information is based on content from my signature coaching program, which is the Change Navigator coaching program. And hopefully at some point we will be able to work together. I'm here to help you become the best version of yourself that you want to be, to navigate that change, to find purpose. I'm really, really excited about the opportunities that I have to work with people every single day in my life at the moment. It's just great. And I hope that this has been helpful for you. So I'm going to say goodnight, and I hope to see you in the future again at one of my webinars. Bye.